But yeah, I just thought we could talk about like our first experiences with the game, and then just go from there.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
But you've been playing this longer than I have, so I think probably you could just tell about the earliest times of the game.
Are we live now? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can cut anything out, but
Yeah, I assumed as much. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, earliest memories of this game. I bought it randomly. I used to play another game called Rise of Liberty, which was a big battle simulator set in the American Revolution. Um, a similar art style at the time, I suppose. It was all block men, muskets, mass infantry. Anyway, so I used to play that game quite a lot. Just blast Steam, really, because it was a very casual game. You just sort of like launched it and away you go. And then from playing that, Steam recommended Ancient Warfare 3. So I checked it out, just through that recommendation. Saw it, and it was only, I don't know, £5 or so. I don't know what that is in dollars, but it wasn't a lot of money in any case. So I thought, okay, sure. Bought it, and I remember playing it for the first time. And I remember being intrigued by it. I made some sort of like intricate map, or what could be intricate for back then. All we had was castle walls and a few bits and pieces. But I made this big castle with corridors and all the rest of it, and I remember being quite disappointed because the AI couldn't figure it out. Back then, the AI could see through stuff. So if you had them behind a wall, for example, they would shoot the wall. And I remember sort of thinking that's a bit crap. So
yeah,
I stopped playing it, and then I forgot about it for, I want to say, 6 months or so. And then one day it came up on my feed again in Steam saying it had an update or something like that. So I thought, all right, okay, I'll check it out. And then literally it was love at second sight, I suppose you could say, because I started playing it and didn't stop. And 2,700 hours later, I'm still playing it. So yeah, um,
yeah.
how about yourself? How did you find Ancient Warfare 3?
I first found it. I was looking for games that were simulator games, that kind of thing, that were not totally accurate battle simulator. That was not my kind of thing at the time. So
All right, yeah.
I got it for Christmas in 2018. I started by just making these giant battles with Roman legions fighting each other. It was very simple, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And laggy, I suppose.
yep, probably.
Yeah. This game's got a very steep learning curve, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Um, I guess it's easy to sort of, when you see like simple maps being uploaded and they're awful and lag and all that, it's easy to forget that the game takes a bit of getting used to. You really do have to work at it to understand a lot of its limitations, I suppose, and how to bypass them. Because yeah, certainly my early maps weren't fantastic. Lag was always a big issue for me. I was always aiming big. Um,
yeah,
and it wasn't really until we started getting good optimization updates that the stuff I make now is really possible. Case in point, a map I made a long time ago called Surinec Suburbs. It was only had about 1,000 objects on it, but back then that was like 20 FPS, on my machine alone. So, and now you think we're up to like 10,000 objects, you can get a steady frame rate. So yeah, things have really changed a lot since the early days.
yeah. I'd say it definitely has. So yeah, the next one on the list was just your experience, like how you grew to become the way you are at making maps. Most popular. So have a
Well, yeah, absolutely. Uh, like I said earlier, 2,700 hours in the game. That's more than any game I've ever played ever in the history of my life. I would have thought. I think the nearest one, War Game Red Dragon, I had about 500 hours in, just for comparison. So really, practice makes perfect. I just kept making maps. I kept making maps. Every time I made a map, I would learn something new. I'd figure out a new technique or a new limitation to the game and a way to bypass a limitation, and it just steadily grew, just one map after another. Every upload, sorry, every creation just put me further and further ahead until we got to the point where I am now, where I pretty much know everything, and now it's more of a question of effort than technical know-how. But yeah. Um, how about yourself? Because obviously, I know like you just released your campaign for the good of the company not so long ago. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. When I played that campaign, it was a far cry from what I'd seen you make before. Like it was a lot more, what's the word? A lot more intricate, a lot more complex. I mean, you had that Green District series you did, but they weren't simple, but they were straightforward, if you know what I mean. Whereas for the good of the company, it's got a much like an extra layer of complexity to it. So how did you go from Green District to for the good of the company?
Well, one of the big reasons was because the Green District maps were very linear. That's something I didn't really want to continue
Yeah.
doing. Yeah. The most recent Green District one, what I tried to do was make multiple paths you could take, but it ended up just being too big of a project and obviously really
Was
laggy.
that was that the one that lagged like loads?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what inspired you to make that campaign? Was it did it just come to you one day, or did you see something, or?
Well, it started as a remake of an old map which I made, which was just called For the Good of the Company. Um, but I knew it was going to be too big if I wanted to do it the way I had it in mind, just for one map, so I had the idea to split it up into smaller maps and have you progress through the story, through that building
Okay.
at the reach point flags. So
So yeah, that's the one I wanted to ask. So, was that campaign all set within the same structure, or was it different structures
it was all in the
in
same
use?
one, yeah.
Was it? Oh, I couldn't tell from the mini map when it was loading up. I kept thinking it was changing shape, but maybe that was just me.
Yeah,
All
because
right. Okay.
I would delete the back parts as I went on, so it would be less lag, and I could
Yeah.
explore the thing more.
Mate, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. Well, that explains it then. Yeah, well, that certainly threw me off because at first I thought he's using the same map, and then as it progressed and obviously the minimap was changing shapes, I thought, oh wait, is he actually using different structures? But no, that's another that's what I mean. You discover a limitation to the game, and then you find a way around it. You know, and Nature Warfare 3, a big part of it is that you think, how can I do this? The game can't do it. And then you start having a little think about it, and you think, well, actually, if I do this and that instead, I can get past that problem and get it done. You know.
Yeah,
So case in point, you want to make a big like linear like a traditional campaign in a massive map, but you think, well, I can't just set it all in one map because I can't put down that many guys. There's no save points or checkpoints. There's nothing like that. However, if I was to divide it into little areas of the map with reach point flags and have a level progression that way, I can achieve that goal. So again, yeah, a lot of H1 Warfare 3 is trying to get around whatever's stopping you from getting your vision seen to.
yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize too. Is they think it's just because of the appearance, it's very similar to other games like Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, but it's really a whole different mindset you have to have.
It really is, you know, and even now when I look on the Discord server, sometimes they want the river brought to them. They won't go to the river; they want it brought to them. They don't realise that H and Warfare 3 is a sandbox at its heart. That's all it is. It's a sandbox. Here's a bunch of toys. Place them down however you want. Do what you can. Sky's the limit. Um, but the moment they realise that they have a vision that they want to fulfil, and the game can't directly give it to them, they give up. They think, oh, there's an AI limitation, for example, or this object doesn't exist, or I can't do this because whatever reason it might be. They don't sit back and think, well, how could I get that done by thinking outside the box? What else could I do to achieve that same end with what we have? Is there another way? When they don't do that, they stop and then they start complaining and they ask for more features to be brought into the game, to make up for their shortfall in imagination. Really, that's probably a bit of a general sweeping statement there. I don't mean like there's like loads of people doing that, but I do see it sometimes where I think, why are they asking for that when we can already do it with a bit of creativity? You know?
Yep, and I think that's been the core problem throughout the history. Sometimes with obviously Dragon Hero and stuff, trying to not try new things and just get things forced.
You can't say that name, Liam. You can't say that name. They'll be after you. Old Krupp will come and sue you.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. What's his name? Is it Krupp or Guzman? What do we call him?
He calls himself Krupp on Discord, but he's not active there anymore, so you can call him.
So okay, Guzman, Krupp. Yeah, it's just weird either way. But
Yep.
anyway, I digress.
I'm sure they'll see this video.
Almost certainly. Well, they're welcome to it, Liam.
Yep.
Welcome to it. So yeah, I mean, I guess we should talk a little bit about the weekly map competition because that's doing really well these days. You obviously mentioned in your last video how we've changed to more of a free form concept where anyone can upload whatever map they want, and we are seeing that serve us really well. It's obviously made the WMC a lot more inclusive because I'm now getting on average 60 to 70 submissions every week. And of those submissions, a good sort of 10 to 15 are making it past that thumbnail goal. I mean, you think on the last WMC I did with a set theme, I think I had about 2 maps get through out of like 20. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
dying a death, and I really think opening
absolutely.
it up the way we have was the way to go.
I think so too.
Um,
Yeah.
it's important at the end of the day. The WMC is the one way that anyone can get straight to the heart of the game's development. You know, through their own hard work. Obviously, it's not just you have to earn the right to be able to get onto that poll that we do. But it just makes it so anyone, not just for Discord people, but also anyone who just plays the game generally. And we have had them. We've had a bunch of random people win the thing and get an item through. Um, I think it's just a really neat idea, and I think J&I is certainly a legend for allowing it in the first place because he's always been very supportive of the whole thing ever since its early conception in the first iteration. When I suggested doing it as like an unofficial map competition on the Steam forums, and straight away he was like, "Do you know what? We should make that official." Um, it's just a lovely little community event that we do, and it's and the frequency of it is every week. I think we've really nailed that, and I really hope that as we continue to do it, it'll grow and grow and grow. Um, obviously not too much because I do have a life to live, and it does bite into my Sundays quite a bit. But yeah, no, it's great. I don't know any other game that does it. You know.
Yeah, it's a very unique game as well for the community and the ways it's engaged. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I don't know what to compare it to. Well, the way that it's developed, and it's by rights, it shouldn't be nearly as good as it is. I mean, it's got everything against it. It's got a one-man development team who's doing it part time. Bearing in mind, it's community led pretty much. So that's the community bossing around the dev, and normally that goes south real quick, right?
yep.
But it's not. And somehow we have all these things that shouldn't be working, but they're working perfectly. It's almost like the ideal, you know, where you've got the producer working for the consumer, which is, you know, obviously when you think about AAA games, you get what you're given, uh, and then some. And you never, no matter how much you protest or how many blogs you write, how many downvotes you put on a trailer or something on YouTube, it won't change the company's mind. They're going to make a game and you're going to have to buy it, and that's the end of. Whereas Ancient Warfare 3, it's not that at all. It's the complete opposite. It's, well, what do you guys want? Like, if you want that, I'll put it in. You know, and it's just like, what? Wow.
Yeah, it's very open ended in that way. Like I said something I think in the last episode about there's no real rules to playing this game. Just like you said, given a lot of options, not just from the game itself, but from the developer. Lots of different ways you can involve yourself in the community.
Absolutely. I mean, that probably sums up Ancient Warfare 3 just nicely, actually. It's just, you can go in any direction you want in the game and in the community. It's just so accessible, really is so accessible. And I really do hope that pays off in the long run and that it gets the recognition it deserves. Because nothing makes me more mad than realizing that the player base is just so tiny compared to other games of its, I want to say of its kind, because there's nothing really like Ancient Warfare 3. But, you think like something like Ravenfield, for example, that has about 10 times as much players, and you think how and why. Ancient Warfare 3, it's just a wonderful sandbox where your imagination's the limit and you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever little game you want. You can literally, whatever you want to do, you can do. And then you got Ravenfield. I mean, I've not played it for a long time, but back in the day, it was just sort of like a subpar AI, sort of like a Battlefield knockoff. And obviously, I'm quite old, so I remember older games, especially multiplayer games like the first couple of Battlefields that had bot support. So I used to play those, obviously, as I see Ravenfield, and I see that as inferior to games that have come out 20 years ago. And I just sort of think, what draws people to that and not Age of Warfare 3? What draws people to a linear sort of, well, it's not linear. I know it's an open-ended battlefield game, but the development's so sluggish on it. It's the majority of it's held up by its modding community, and I think what gives it an advantage? And all I can really think of is that it's got a vague sort of resemblance to something like Call of Duty or the modern Battlefield games, because it's got sleek models, sleek player movement. The art style's a bit jarring because it's everything, you got the realistic terrain with the block men. It doesn't really, And then you Age of Warfare 3, where it's like, look, if you literally can make a game within a game. That's what it is. Age of Warfare 3. I keep saying a sandbox. It's not. It's a game maker. That's exactly what it is. It's a game maker. It's saying like, here's a toolkit. You can go make your own game. That is pretty much what it is. If you want to make a medieval battle, you can do so. If you want to make a map about being a thief sneaking into a castle, you can do that. If you want to make a map about special forces missions against like some terrorists in a jungle somewhere, you can do that. If you want to make a trench World War One battle, you can do that. But you can just do anything, absolutely anything. And yeah, it's held back in places by the AI, I suppose, but that's getting better and better. And to the point now where I think the AI is phenomenal, really, for what it does. You think how quickly it has to generate pathing and how quickly it's got to think on the fly. The maps, it's not that are like, for all intents and purposes, randomly generated. You see a thing like Ravenfield, for example, the bots will follow set paths. You build a map and then you put down the pathing nodes, and those bots will behave accordingly to what you put down. Whereas Age of Warfare 3, the bots have to make it up as they go. And I think that's absolutely amazing that game can do that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's, I think, one of the big pros that this game has over the competitors, because
yeah,
like you're saying, these, you can make the AI do whatever you really want it to.
People just need to see it.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons, honestly, Ravenfield is so big is because it has all the attention in YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah, but why? Maybe because it's just easier to load up and play, right? I guess. Age of Warfare 3, again, with that learning curve I mentioned earlier, that comes into it. If you want to get the best out of that game, you've got to actually apply yourself to it a little bit. I guess if you're a YouTuber, all you want to do is load a game up, hit the play button, do a silly voice, and get the money. Yep. Which you can't do with Age of Warfare 3, not really. But yeah, hey.
So yeah, I just thought, well, that was a good conversation, but I think maybe we could talk now about possible plans for maps in the future, like if you have any ideas going forward.
Okay, well, I mean, the problem with having 2,700 hours in the game is that I'm not run out of steam as such, but I've hit a sort of creative plateau now where, things are getting challenging. So you think, when I started playing this game like properly, the only other person that made maps that could even be considered as like consistently decent was Stalin's. And no disrespect to the guy, but I steamrolled him when I started making stuff and figured out how to make good these big towns I was making early on. I took over the workshop for weeks and weeks. Whereas you fast forward to the present day, that's not the case anymore. I'm not the best map maker there is. You got people like Marijusa, Meko, even you got Fish, Flecky. You got some real talented map makers there that have got more like I would say in some cases certainly a better attention to detail than I have, and in some cases certainly more creative vision than I do. So it's becoming harder and harder for me to stay relevant, and I'm having to be very, I want to say, tactical with my choices of what the maps I make. Like the recent MCP series, for example, that was a marketing decision more than anything. I looked at what was there for the SCP maps, realised that they were terrible, and thought, well, if no one else is going to move in on this, I'll go in there and make something decent, and and take those upvotes in, which is what I did.
Yep.
But now I'm steering back to my roots, shall we say, where I'm going back to the big war maps, because those are my favourite, is Conquest, large maps. Obviously, I had a spate of World War II ones fairly recently, and now I'm moving into sort of like a more modern setting. So you would have seen on the Discord workshop channel, I've been advertising these massive prefabs I've been making, like airfields and helicopter pads and these like munitions bases and everything. And what I'm doing is I'm accumulating now a big reserve of prefabs that no one's really seen before. And the idea is I'm going to start making a load of World War III maps, and they should be coming out. I want to say in the next couple of weeks you'll start seeing me release them after I've got enough of what's the word? Enough of a bank of prefabs. But that's the key to what I do is I use predominantly prefabs. I mean, you've seen my YouTube videos where I try and show people what to do, predominantly as prefabs. And then my methods are very procedural. So procedural doesn't mean random, as you know, you get a procedural generator. It doesn't mean that. It means I follow certain procedures, certain ways I do things. If you look at my maps, a lot of them have similarities, which is fine, which is okay. Obviously, I enjoy making them. I enjoy playing them as well, which is the main thing, because you have to enjoy your maps when you make. You have to. If you make maps you don't enjoy playing, there's not really a lot of point, having actual Warfare 3, in my opinion. But no, certainly, I'm just I'm just gathering prefabs at the moment, just building bigger and better prefabs than I've ever had before. I have released a lot of them onto the workshop just because I feel it's my duty. If I ever make a good prefab, I always release it to the workshop, just so anyone can go and use it. Pretty much, especially people who are new to the game who don't quite know what they're doing or how to make some of the impressive things that I try and make. They can just grab it, use it in their map. Fantastic, and maybe they'll learn a thing or two when they look at it up close. But yeah, until I actually get around to putting the maps together, I'm afraid it's radio silence. How about yourself? Are you making a version 3 of your campaign? Were you doing a remaster?
Yep, I recently put out that remaster. It was pretty quiet though. I mean, I just put out some updates to the levels, made it look a bit nicer, I think, and fixed some of the big bugs.
So wait, is V2 the remaster?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I saw that was back on the front page. Is that? I see that I'd already liked it. So is that the one that's been there since the beginning? The one that I would have played.
Changes out to the maps in the original campaign.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
That's unusual for something of that age to get back on there. You don't often see like something that's released. I mean, when did you release it?
Early September, like the 5th or the 6th.
Yes, it's very rare. And what the way the workshop works, as far as I can tell, is after 7 days, maps are bumped off the front page. So that's what you have a map up there for 7 days or whatever. And I'm not sure what the mechanic is behind it, but it just gets moved off. And then to see something come back up again is very rare. So yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know what you've done. I don't know how this works or what you've done exactly, but no, that's great.
Yeah, I would consider it my best project in this game so far. Yeah.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Well, but I've not played anything like it. I don't think anyone's done anything to rival it either. Now that it's there, I would have thought you would have seen a spate of campaigns, but no one's done anything remotely like it. And do you know why that is? It's because it takes a lot of effort to do what you did. A lot of people haven't got that sort of attention span to play this game. They can't sit there and play the game for hours at a time. They'll sit there and they'll play it for half an hour tops, and that'll be their lot. But to make something like that, I mean, what would that take you? 6 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, not just you put it all together, 6 hours, maybe even more than that.
Yeah. Playtesting could get a little grueling sometimes.
Yeah, that can be the worst part of it, to be honest, playtesting. I found that with my MCP maps, not so much with my big battle maps, because there's only so much that can go wrong with those, but the MCP maps where you had to have everything work in a certain way, my God, just playing it over and over and over and over again,
Yeah.
I even I streamed it in Discord once, and it was just people were saying you just keep replaying it over and over, and I said, well, yeah, I have to. You can't just release crap onto the workshop. If something doesn't work, you have to go back on there and fix it. What's the point of leaving it? If you know it's broken, don't upload it. That's just that's not how it works, But people do.
By the dozens.
Christ, people. Yeah, by the dozens. I'm just looking at the front page now as it happens, and well, first of all, you've got Meko's scene for the main menu at the very top, and I mean, I don't know why. I guess I do. Well, I'm not going to downvote it or anything. I don't know. It's not really. I don't see why it's on there.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the? They just want to look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair
Well,
enough.
maybe. I
Fair
don't know.
enough.
It's kind
Yeah,
of weird.
but you've got Town of Merrywin, which is a WMC map, and all that was a bunch of ships in the water. Had a town in the background of it, I suppose, but otherwise,
Mm.
it was very just sort of, you know what the ships are like in this game. I know they've been reworked, but even so, they're very temperamental. So within like minutes, it had bugged out for me, and you know, I mean, you've got oil rig invasion. I can tell you right now, those boats ain't going to work just from looking at that thumbnail. But obviously, the kids see it, 3 oil rigs in those boats, and they think, oh, that's going to be awesome. And it ain't going to be awesome, guys. I mean, for one, because the boats are going to go to that first island, didn't they? I was saying that I've not used boats for a while. You can actually set waypoints now, can't you, for them? Drop points. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the same thing happened with the zombies too. It's seen some improvements to the non-normal units.
Okay, well, yeah, fair enough.
Actually,
Desert
you probably
Military
know that
HQ.
because you did
Sorry?
that for your.
Sorry?
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Very true. Desert Military HQ. I don't know why that's going so well. It looks like a flat, empty map with a base in the middle, using wooden castle walls and modern military tents. Yeah, I've never quite understood what makes a good map in this game. Like as far as the player base is concerned, I never really understood what the formula was.
Yeah.
You know, they vote for some strange things.
It might just be honestly a hive mind. If one map gets a little popular and onto the front pages, everybody else
You
clicks
know
on it.
what?
And
I think you could be right. I think you could well be right. It could just be that you know you upload a map, and if you get a couple of your friends to vote for it, that puts it straight onto the top of the pile.
yeah,
And then whoever loads a game up, they'll see it first, and they'll just go for it. And yeah, still though, I don't get the upvote part of it. You think they'll play it fair enough, but why would you upvote something that? I get the impression they upvote them before they play the map. So they'll load something up, they see the thumbnail, whatever it is, and they'll give it an upvote, and they'll play the map, rather than play the map and then vote. You know, depending.
yeah, that
But
might even have something to do with the YouTube mindset because there's probably a lot of kids playing this game and they see somebody who they like and they upload a video, they like it right away, and then they watch the video.
yeah.
That could be an explanation. I don't really know.
Could well be. I'm just looking at someone's loaded up a custom unit with a realistic skin tone. I'm guessing they've used the balaclavas and given them like obviously a human skin. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad, to be fair. I thought it looked really strange, but it just looks like they're like a Minecraft character or something.
Oh,
But yeah, no, that aside, generally speaking, there are better and better maps in the workshop every day. It's not the wasteland it was a few months ago or even a year ago. Certainly isn't. I mean, I'm just looking right now. You got some real hard hitters in here. You got MCP Containment Breach. You've got Forsaken Silence. The negotiations are over. Subject 87. Charge of the Light Brigade. Your campaign, obviously, the good of the company. Yeah, so some real like sort of strong entries there mixed in with everything else. So it's a good sign, and I think people are getting better and better generally. Well, as I told you earlier, that I can't just come onto the workshop anymore and storm the place. Can't do it. But that's fine. That's fine.
yeah, it's good to see there being more of a variety as well. I mean, even if you can't take over the workshop that easily.
No, that's true. I mean, that's the thing, right? I used to take over the workshop out of spite more than anything. To be honest with you, I used to get so sick and tired of seeing the same old crap up there, and I would just sort of like, I would make 7 or 8 maps, and I'd release them one after another, like all in a short space of time, and then they would just surge to the top and just take over everything, and it'd be great. But I don't feel the need to do that anymore. I don't really, whether I've matured as a person or whether I just don't see the significance of it anymore. I don't know, but
Yeah.
certainly I'm not too bothered. Yeah. So yeah, just thinking where I want the game to go next. I don't know. To me, the AI, I guess, it has always has been my priority is the AI. because the game ultimately, no matter how many flashy objects you add, no matter how many gimmicks like the animation edit and everything else, at the end of the day, the actual gameplay itself is still hamstringed by the AI. I know JN's working on the melee system, and I'm sure great things will come from that. But also, I mean, as you know, I was quite bitter about the squad system being sidelined in favour of it.
Yeah.
But I do honestly think that companion AI will be the next big step in this game. I think H1 Warfare 3 is built to have allied teammates, and it will serve it really well to have ones that are good, ones that can react to basic commands and be useful. Because at the moment, if let's face it, they're human shields at best,
Yeah.
and team killers at worst.
There was one time
So
I had a cavalry unit that rammed into me and killed me no matter what I did. So
yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But you think with like advanced squad AI, the things you could do,
Yeah.
you get tactical. You get like some snipers on your side, and you could start putting them around the place and ambushing stuff and getting them to attack a base from different angles. You could come in from one side, they could come in from the other. And you could expand that to medieval eras as well by having like a party of heroes that are, like a Dungeons and Dragons sort of setting, or like a Lord of the Rings kind of setting.
Yeah.
I think they work really well there. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to wait for that, but I do think that when he starts to sort of just refocus his efforts towards making a competent companion AI, I think people will resonate. That will resonate with people really well, and it will open so many more possibilities. Because at the end of the day, it's not a multiplayer game, and in the case of a single player experience like this, it really does pay dividends to have. So yeah, for me, that's one thing I want to see at some point, and that might harken back to my younger days when I was a young man. Again, multiplayer games, the internet was still quite young. So a lot of the multiplayer games had bots. So I grew up playing, whether it was Unreal Tournament or Battlefield or the early Quake games and all that. I was having like an affection for bot teammates, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to get some of that in the game as we go forwards. But then I am just an old man, and AI teammates could well be a thing of the past. And now all the kids want is I dread to look at the suggestion page, to be honest with you. But I guess we'll see what happens as we go forwards in time. But hey, yeah.
Yep.
Right, what's next on your list? Anything? Is that it? We good?
Again. I think that might be it.
You want to slag off Dragon Hero? You can cut that bit. I think that. I know. I think he's had enough airtime, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think, I think if I want to talk about him, I'll probably do my own video. But I'd have to have a bit of time and be very bitter and having a bad day for me to do a video about him.
Yeah.
I get the impression someone like him probably feeds off of that.
Probably. Like half a dozen people came out of the woodworks and disliked that video that I made. It was crazy.
Of course they did. Of course they did. Poor Dragon. I'll tell you what, actually. I would just like to explain, because obviously I'm a 31-year-old man. He's a 16-year-old kid. Mammoth, why are you going after this kid? And I just want to stress that I'm not going after him. I did lash out. Certainly I lashed out at him. But you have to understand what was happening was, the way I see it is, it'd be like if you played Fortnite and you had this, I don't know, I'll just say like a Facebook group, some sort of pressure group that existed outside the game. They didn't really interact with the game, but they just somehow had got an influence of the developer, and they were forcing through changes that you didn't like. And you're the one playing the game. You're the one that likes the game. These other people are just doing it because it's not entirely clear why they are doing it. And so you're having your experience ruined, essentially, by these people that got no stakes in what's going on here, other than some sort of. Again, I'm not entirely sure why, because he never played the game properly. I can tell you he never played the game properly, because even just before his final ban, he was asking me how to put roads down. Now, someone who's played H1 Warfare 3, I've got screenshots of that. Someone who plays H1 Warfare 3. I mean, putting down roads is one of the first things you learn. And this was right towards the end of it, his final ban and everything. So there's someone who doesn't play the game who was wielding like an unsavory amount of influence, and I don't understand how. And it was just changing a game that I love in ways I did not like, and he hadn't earned it. So, yeah, I lashed out, but to say I'm going after him or anything like that, no. No, I'd rather he just faded away.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So, if anybody who is watching this and you're
Yeah.
please
Yeah, well, I just
take
wanted to
it
set the
into heart.
record straight. That's why I applied a bit of effort in getting rid of him, just because it was annoying. It was just damaging something I was enjoying, and I didn't see why he should have the right to do so. And that's pretty much where I stand. So I think, are we more or less done there?
I think so. Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this. Got
That's okay. I like to set the world to rights. We'll have to do it again in a little while, maybe a month or so.
All right.
See how things progress.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, you take care. I'm going to be off now.
All right. See ya.
Later.
Well, that was my conversation with Desert-Mammoth, a longtime map maker in the Ancient Warfare 3 community. So, if you're interested in hearing more about the game, I'll be continuing to upload videos going into the future. So be sure to let me know in the comments section if there's anything you want me to talk about. But otherwise, I have a few ideas of my own. So that's all. I'll see you in the next episode.